How's everybody doing out there? It is time to rework another day, and we're going to rework day 6 on today's reworked episode. Um, if you hear thunder in the background, that's not some fancy effect. It is coming a monsoon outside. I hope my baby turkey poults are big enough to literally weather the storm. I dropped my pen. Um, but yeah, it's coming a monsoon outside. I just got in. Spent the weekend up in North Alabama with Courtney, and we helped her trap some ducks. We rocket netted some ducks this weekend. I helped her with that. That was pretty cool. Banded some ducks. So that's what I've been doing this weekend. Hope everybody else had a good weekend. Day 6 um, is what we're going to be looking at today, and we'll jump to it. I got a couple questions I want to field first. A couple people were asking, or several people were asking about the camera that I've got on the barrel of my gun. What kind is it? Where'd it come from? It's a Run Cam, but I bought it off of a website that this guy takes these little cameras and he puts these lenses in them so that you get a little bit more of a magnification, and it's not like digitally magnification, I guess is. I'm not technical with this stuff. I'm really not really sure what I'm even talking about. But the quality of the picture is better and it's magnified rather than like some of those cameras. It can be pixelated when you zoom in. But anyways, what the guy does is he goes in there and puts these aftermarket lenses in there, and I got one with like a 16 millimeter lens, I think it was, so that a turkey at 30 yards doesn't look like he's 300 yards. It seemed to work okay. I have it on a lot of the hunts. I have it on the barrel. Most of the time, I forgot to turn it on. Was the biggest issue with this thing. But it's as easy as like a one-touch operation. You just set it up on Wi-Fi on your phone. It'll connect. Um, I would buy it again. I've got a little dirt between the lens, got behind the lens somehow. I've noticed that about halfway through the season, and I didn't know how to clean it, so I just kind of have to deal with that as we go. Um, but it can't really be standalone footage, but it does save you. Sometimes you do get something of a kill shot. Day 6, we didn't have it on squirrels. Gun barrel, obviously, we didn't have any type of kill shot, and I really wish we would have. I would have really added to that because I think it came together really well considering we didn't have a kill shot. But anyways, moving on. Um, Folks are asking about they want uh, let's see, satellite imagery, maps, reading maps and stuff. What do I do? How do I do it? I'm gonna wait for another one of these to do that, and it may be one all by itself because I can go on for hours about reading maps and stuff. I've actually done a podcast with the hunting public back before turkey season. We talked about that quite a bit, and so you may want to look that up. But when we tackle, I think we're in Kentucky, and we tackle maps a little bit more, and that's where I'm a little bit, I would say, experienced is doing map studying and it being topo maps. So far, we've just been in Florida, so that's more like looking at land composition and stuff. And there is some things you can look for there, and we may touch on that as well. But I'll wait till then to do that. Another question was the wingbone that I mentioned that I use, and everybody, that is it. A couple people ask about that, and it is made by a gentleman up in North Georgia. And no, before everybody asks, you can't order one. He's one of those type guys. If you want one of his calls, you have to go to his shop and you have to run the call and make sure you like it. He wants everybody to run the call. And Mr. Mabry is his name, and he's up in I think is it Waleska, Georgia, maybe. But he does the wing bones. He does pot calls and box calls, and he does a little vibrating tongue call, really cool. But here's what it sounds like. Now I may jack this all up. But that's a little wing bone I like to carry. I use it, some years it seems to be used more than others. Is all how the turkeys are acting. But that's that. But anyways, we'll move on to the hunt now. We're going to go into day 6. Day 6, there won't be much to say for day 5. Let me think. Day 5, we got rained on. And we got wet on day 5. You hear us walking in the water. We got soaking wet on day 5, trying to move in on a gobbler. I think we did give a tip in the video where we really messed up on day 5 is we didn't a turkey gobbled 3 times, and we didn't pin him. We had took kind of took for granted he's going to gobble a little better than he did, and when we started moving, we didn't get a pin on exactly where he was at. We just kind of got a general direction. I don't think I'm saying all this again because I said it in actual day 5, but anyways, when you hear turkey, get a good pin on where he's at before you start hauling tail to him, because you'll get mixed up once you get there. But anyways, day 6, we roosted this turkey, or squirrel roosted this turkey, knew exactly where it was at. But it wasn't like we were on our home farm or something. It wasn't like you were in a super familiar spot. Neither one of us had ever hunted this particular spot. So we roosted the turkey, knew where he was, and knew we were going to start really close, but we didn't know what the terrain around him was. So it was essentially just looking at satellite imagery and going off what little bit squirrel could tell when he was, there the evening before, on which way the turkey was going to roost, which way the turkey was going to fly down, what the grass height and road system and stuff looked like the next morning when we got in there. We did know we had one hen that squirrel bumped or didn't bump. Either way, this hen flew away from the gobbler. We knew we probably wanted to be on that side because the timber looked better. According to squirrel, the timber looked bigger back there. Still not sure why he didn't roost back there. It seems like a more would be a better spot for him to pitch up and spend the night, but he didn't. He spent the night in this little bitty pine tree, and as you can see in the footage, he has quite a time balancing on that pine limb all morning and gobbling and trying to strut to us and stuff. But anyways, what we did was we set up between where the hen had flown and him. We had picked out a little clump of cabbage palms that we thought would have been the proper setup to get good footage and kill him the next morning. In the dark, this turkey roosted in a pine tree. You hear us talking about this as well, that was set off of the line of trees, so we were able to skylight him really well since we knew where he was at. So when we slipped in there that next morning and was going to that cabbage palm, squirrel put his glasses up and you was able to see him skylighted on the limb there, squatted down to sleep, and we were like 55 yards from him or something. And so we were like, no, there's no way we're going to be able to get in that cabbage palm. For those of you that don't know, palms, palmettos, cabbage palms, they are extremely loud, like extremely loud. Like a little finch about this tall could sound like Sasquatch coming at you. So we knew us bailing into that thing was not going to be a good idea. Not to mention, I didn't want to sit there with a camera staring back at him that close with him on the limb all morning either. Because the chances of him seeing us were probably pretty good. So what we did is it just backed up about probably another 20 yards, 25 yards, but it was around a little bend. He was, if you can imagine, a straight shot tree line and really tall, nasty stuff to out what was, kind of looks like a field or pond or whatever it is. And we were essentially going to try to kill him on the edge of that thing where the grass we were hoping was a little shorter, and there was like a road, like an old road that went right around the corner. We hoped that's where he was going to pitch down into. Anyway, there was like a little bitty corner that kind of wrapped around where a road went into the woods there, and we used that little corner and kind of got back behind that little corner, made us a little blind. And I was actually videoing here. You can see in the video where I've got him, I'm shooting right over the top of this stuff here, and that is that corner. I got to where I could see right over the top of a palm tree and some palmettos and stuff, and I'm shooting right over the top of that thing with a video camera and just seeing him. And we were able to, since we backed up a little bit, we were able to snip some palmettos and stuff. And that's one advantage of the terrain down there in Florida. You can make yourself a nice little hide pretty quickly with snipping a couple palmetto fronds or picking a few dead ones up, and you can stick them in the ground, and it's just like a blanket in front of you. So that was really helpful since he was in eyesight there for probably 45 minutes before he decided to fly down and before he decided to pull the quick one on us like he did. So anyways, we sat up, the turkey got to gobbling, and and really putting on a show, trying to balance on that pine limb. Um, as far as the calling went to this turkey, being in sight of him, I'm always super reluctant to call at all. Given this situation, when he initially started his morning, he was faced the wrong way. He was faced into the woods. Um, all I wanted to do was give him just the littlest bit so that he couldn't pin us, but would get him spun on the limb, and it worked to perfection. I waited till he was moving to make my call, and all I did was just like a bubble cluck or a tree cluck or whatever. It's just super, super soft, just, and I watched him. That's the advantage of being able to see him. I watched his head move, and he stopped, and I knew it's just like that situation where, like, did I just hear that? And then I give him another one, and said, and as soon as I did, you see him on the limb. He hears it, and he has to, juggle around on that little bitty skinny limb to get turned to strut toward us. And I'll see if I can find that part of the video here. I know I just heard myself cluck at him. Right here you can see he's looking every time. He turns toward us after I do that. I think this is right after that. And he gobbles directly at you. At this point, I know he's heard me. I've watched him when he turned to go up that limb, and he, see, look at him. Here, I cluck to him. He turns that old head at us. See him turn that head? He's looking right down there, watch him strut at me. And drum. Just beautifully. And that just lets you know that he heard you. They don't have to gobble at you. If they don't gobble at you, a lot of people think they didn't hear you. Because if he'd heard you hit a gobble, that's not always the case. When he's strutting up there in that limb, and I watch that head turn, and about that time I hear him drum, that reaction is telling me the same thing as him gobbling at me. That's telling me that he heard me, and I'm close enough for him not to need to gobble in his opinion, so he just drums at me. I know this turkey's heard me. I'm not interested in saying much else other than making sure that he's always pointed at me and making sure that I'm the direction, that he's wanting to go. And here we go with him fixing to make his surprise move here on us. I'm trying to brainstorm here, make sure I've told you guys everything I want to tell you about this up to this point, other than us making the setup between him and his hen, tucking around the corner so that we're not in direct sight of him. Now, granted, if I was just hunting this turkey, if it was just me and a shotgun on this turkey, I may have gotten in that cabbage palm. I like to get tight on turkeys. In this situation and in South Florida, the dew is so heavy. Every morning you're walking through, you're soaking wet. So the dew is heavy on the turkeys as well. And we all know heavy turkeys don't typically like to fly very far, and they like to get out in the open. So I always take for granted that these turkeys in Florida aren't going to pitch off the roost like this one did. I always assume that they're going to drop straight to the ground, shake off, and just feel safer with, as soon as they're able to pitch down to the ground, pitch down to somewhere where they can look it over really well from the limb. That all makes sense. And typically that's the case. And of course this one threw the curveball here. But other than wrapping around, getting hid, a little extra distance because of the camera. I didn't want him staring at the camera, and then clucking at him just enough to let him know a turkey was on that side. And it all makes sense since his hen flew that way. And once he turned on the limb, we kind of clammed up and let him do his thing and make his decision. And here he is, fixing to come out of the tree for us. And if you watch Squirrel and I down here in this corner, you watch our heads, watch him fly right on by. And there he goes. It's funny now. It wasn't really funny at the time. Essentially when the turkey flew past us, all bets are off. We're there to kill turkeys. We're not there to video turkeys. We're trying our best to video turkeys. But Squirrel, at this point, is just going to roll out and point behind us up that same tree line that we're sitting on. We knew the turkey flew past us a good ways because we didn't hear him hit the ground. He just kind of just glided right past us. So I felt like he was a solid, 75 yards past us, and that was the case. But anyways, we'll move forward a little bit here. I keep bumping that thing. I need to quit doing that. Let's see. All right. As soon as he hits the ground and I see squirrel get situated, I start yelping at the turkey, and he starts drumming extremely loud, and you can hear it plain as day on the camera. And I mean, you can hear it. I mean, just as plain as day. I even put it on there just to make sure everybody was listening for it because it was deafening. Because as you can see, this brush is super, super, super thick, and that's just what lines that whole tree line up and down. It goes straight that way right there. And these pine trees right here is where I catch a glimpse of him, right here at the bottom of these pine trees through this thick stuff. I'm standing up at this point because I'm trying to get any video I can, and squirrels out there has got a much clearer line of sight, so I'm pretty sure that he's going to be able to kill the turkey before I can even see it. So for the video purposes, I'm standing up trying to just get anything I can. And that just made me almost like, nothing between me and him but air, besides this little brush here, and that drumming was just extremely loud. I just did some under the breath yelps and clucks and stuff, and the drumming got really loud. And I knew he had heard me, and I thought it was just going to be as simple as that. And most cases it seems like it would have been. He'd have just came right around the corner for a look, and it would have been the end of the game. But not with this guy. He was quirky to say the least. Who knows why turkeys do what they do? But this one did some weird things. You can hear me just doing the really quiet stuff, just a hey, acknowledging his presence and him hopefully coming to have a look at us. Obviously, it didn't work. um, really soft stuff. He's close. I think I may jump on top of him here in just a little bit to try to. When he starts gobbling like that and it becomes pretty apparent that he's not making a move, this is when squirrel makes his move. It just happens like that sometimes. Everybody likes to think that every turkey you kill is with your back to a tree. With us, that's not the case. Maybe it is with other people, but with us, every time we get out of the truck, we're there to win. Granted, we play by our rules. You guys probably know that by now. So, and our rules may be a little bit more restricted than others, but we essentially use things that you can't buy. You can't buy the stuff it's between your ears, and that's what we like to use to kill turkeys. And so when this turkey begins to gobble on the ground pretty consistently, he's not advancing at this point. Squirrel begins to inch his way on up to another little bit of a corner in this tree line to where he can hopefully see the turkey and get a shot. And there he goes through the bushes there. You see him crawling right up that tree line there. And what I'm doing is essentially just going to continue to call to this turkey to keep him gobbling. Because if the turkey's advancing on us and squirrel's moving to him, it's going to be a bad deal if they bump into each other. It usually doesn't work out well for the hunter when that happens. So I'm trying to keep him gobbling so that squirrel has a constant idea on where he's at, knows exactly where he's at. So if the turkey starts advancing, he can get ready for a shot. Or if the turkey starts drifting, he can continue to kind of quicker, maybe pick up the pace and making up ground. Squirrel's on his butt now here, scooting in inch by inch around this corner, hoping for a shot. And when he gets up that far and I can hear the turkey gobbling, I can't hear him drumming anymore. I can tell the turkey's kind of drifted from us a little bit. That's when we pull out the kitchen sink, so to speak. And that is when this happens. I set the big camera up, this camera that I'm videoing with here on the tripod. I take the little vlogger here that I'm videoing this part with, and I essentially start crawling away. I'm going to pretend that the turkey that he's heard yelping at him all morning is walking away from him. Sometimes it doesn't turn them around, sometimes it does, but a lot of times what it'll do is make them stall. Instead of drifting away from us like he was, it at least makes him stop and hold his ground. And that's exactly what happened here. I was able to just continue walking away and just continue. You pick the calling up because you're not trying to call the turkey in at this point. You're just wanting to make sure to keep him gobbling. So I get really aggressive with him a lot. I'll cut really hard at him. I'm just trying to get him to gobble so squirrel can keep a pin on his location. And I feel like this came together. I don't feel like you see this type of hunt anywhere else. And I was most of people would have probably, maybe not even put this hunt out there. There wasn't a kill shot. A lot of it was shaky stuff, but this is real turkey hunting to me, and I was pretty proud of the way it came together, to be honest with you, because this is stuff that you have to put together to kill some of these gobblers. I mean, turkeys are turkeys. They don't always act like they do on the Outdoor Channel. So I was kind of glad. I was proud of the way this came together. And at this point, I'm still crawling at this point, but here soon, right here, I've obviously gotten and you can tell I'm being pretty aggressive. I mean, I'm cutting hard at him. I'm yelping loud at him. I'm just trying to keep that turkey gobbling. And at this point, I've crawled through enough of the grass and got around so that I can actually stand up and make some, drift farther from this turkey quicker. And I end up being, 200 yards from him or something, or probably close by the time he got a shot. But I was still just drifting, trying to make sure that gobbler kind of held his ground and didn't continue drifting away from us. And it worked to perfection. We'll bump on forward here.
He pitched 150.
Up. We done bumped forward too far.
Mark's putting a play on him.
I love this part. It ain't a kill shot, but that's so cool to me.
He just shot, so fingers crossed.
But yeah, that's kind of all there is about that hunt. Is essentially we set up on that turkey. He did a lot of things that we didn't expect him to do. But we were able to formulate a plan and make some quick moves. It's one of those situations where you can't sit there and contemplate what you need to do for a long amount of time, or that turkey would have drifted right off into the woods, probably got far enough away from us to quit gobbling, for us to lose his interest in us, pick up that hen from the morning before. There were so many things that could have happened had he drifted farther from us. So as soon as that turkey began to drift, I tried to provoke him to do something different. I tried to do something that would make him either stall or perhaps make advancements on us, and that was start drifting away from him. That's the huge advantage of having two people there, having a shooter and having a caller. That's it's something that you can employ that's been very successful for us in the past, but it is something that you have to really kind of set into motion pretty quick a lot of times, and it can be done with only one caller if you have the luxury of having some type of thick vegetation or maybe a roll in the hill or something to where you can get back and call and kind of sneak in really quick before the gobbler makes his move, if you can get him to advance. But that's that, and of course later in this when we're having our little post hunt celebration, you see the panther, which was pretty cool. But guys, this thing is what are we running on here? About 24 minutes, so it's time to close her down. That's about what my other ones have been. So I'm doing all these things just like right off the cuff, so if I miss something in the hunts, let me know. If there was something else that you had a question about, let me know. Be glad to field them. But I guess for tonight, that's going to do it. I sure appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next Reworked. Look, I guess the next one will be day 7, where I was doing the shooting. See you guys on that one.